I just want to tell you a little bit about double NAT, what that means, and how to avoid it. So you may or may not have heard that term, double NAT, and what that is a double routed signal. Now that might cause a little bit of issues on a computer web browser. It may be a little bit slower than it could be, and that may or may not be noticeable. But it does cause some bigger issues on the CapTel. So I want to make sure you know what it is and how to avoid it. Whenever I come into a home and I see two devices, a modem and a router separate, I always plug into the modem first. I plug into that modem and check the IP address. Of course, if it is one of these, I know that that modem is already routing that signal. And I don't want to plug into the router because then it would be a double NAT or twice routed signal. To show you an example, I will plug in the CapTel directly into a single port modem. So here we have a modem and a router. I'll unplug the modem from the input on the router. So this cord is coming from the back of the modem. It's the single Ethernet port. And I will plug it in to the back of the CapTel. Once I've got it plugged in, I will check the IP address. So let's just say, for example's sake, that I find the IP address and it starts with 192.168. In that case, I know that it's routed, so I will want to add a switch. So from here, I will unplug the modem from the CapTel. So now I have the Ethernet cord that's coming from the back of the modem, and I will plug this into the input spot of the switch. That one is labeled 5, and it's the one kind of set apart from the other ports on the switch. So now the modem is giving the switch connection so that it can connect to other devices. So from here, I'm going to plug both the CapTel as well as the router into this switch. So we'll start with the router. So I want to plug it into the switch first because it's where the signal is coming from. And then I will plug that into the input section on the router. So on this one, we have the outputs here, and then the input is an odd colored Ethernet port, and I will plug that in there. I will then plug in to the switch in any of the additional ports the CapTel. So an Ethernet cord plugged into the switch, and I will plug it into the back of the CapTel. And that completes a switch installation. You may have to reset the modem. I do always reset the modem because it's never a bad thing. And to do that, I just unplug power and then wait maybe 20 to 30 seconds and plug it back in. Usually takes about 2 minutes for that modem to reboot. So let's say, for another example, that we have a gateway modem. I don't have one here, so I did print a photo of a gateway modem to provide an example. So this is an example of a gateway modem. We have our cable, in this case, input here. This could also be DSL. And then we have our 4 output ports, Ethernet ports, right here. Sometimes you come into a situation where you find that there's a gateway modem and then also a router. That might happen because the customer may have at one point had a single port modem and a router combo, but then when the company came and changed out their equipment, they gave them a gateway modem, removing the necessity for the router. But the customer may have been used to the password and the network name or the SSID of their previous Wi-Fi network and didn't want to change it. That's why we might see that. In that case, I would leave the equipment as is. There's no reason for a setup like that, but it's also not my place to remove it. So what I would do is I would test to make sure first that the gateway modem is giving me a routed signal. It's important to remember that service providers are able to change the settings on a gateway modem. They could make this device only act as a modem, or they could make this device act as both a modem and a router. So it is always important to check the IP address regardless of what kind of device you're using. So I would plug the CapTel directly into the gateway modem and then check the IP address. If the IP address came back that it was routed, I would know that I want to be plugged into the gateway modem instead of the router. Like I said, I would still leave the router in its place. We wouldn't need to add a switch in that circumstance because there's already several ports on the back of the gateway. So both the CapTel as well as the router will be plugged into the back of the gateway. As a recap with visuals, this is the back of the gateway modem that we were just discussing. As long as this gateway modem is routing the signal, we would plug in the router, which was probably already plugged in to one of these Ethernet ports. Then we would also plug in the CapTel to one of these Ethernet ports. If you plug the CapTel into the modem and find that you do not have a routed IP address, then you will know that you don't have a double NAT setup, and you'll know that that router was necessary. You can continue business as usual. Hope this helps.